You are listening to Exopolitics Today with Dr. Michael Salla, your source for the uncensored truth regarding the human, extraterrestrial, global, and political agenda. Click the like button and subscribe to this channel. And now, here's Dr. Michael Salla.
There has been much speculation over the destruction of 40 out of 49 Starlink microsatellites on February 8 that were shot down by the deep state, according to information received by Elena Danaan from her primary extraterrestrial contact, Thor Han Eredyon. Elena has just followed up with an article that casts more light on Elon Musk and Starlink, based on information received earlier from a female extraterrestrial from Alpha Centauri with whom she had a face-to-face encounter in a small town in Ireland just over a month previously. In her article, Elena explains how she first met the Nordic-looking extraterrestrial and her husband in December 2019 at a book launch in Ireland, and was told that they were Americans working on advanced communications technology projects in Los Angeles, California. At the time, Elena didn't know about their true origins, but only observed their strikingly good looks and their strangeness. Elena says that she was very surprised when the same female phoned her 2 years later on January 4, 2022 and arranged to have a meeting. At the meeting, the Nordic identified herself as coming from Alpha Centauri and that she and others had been living on Earth for some time and had integrated into the human population. In 2006, I wrote an article and followed up with a conference presentation about extraterrestrials secretly living among us a year later. This history of aliens infiltrating human society extends back, at the very least, to the 1950s, when famous contactees such as George Adamski and Howard Menger described helping extraterrestrials go unnoticed in society. Around the same time, a group of extraterrestrials began revealing themselves to over 100 Italians and other Europeans in what is known as the Friendship Case. The meeting Elena described is therefore not unique, given this secret history of off-worlders living among us. At their January 2022 meeting, which Elena discusses in her article, the extraterrestrial explained the future importance of Starlink and Elon Musk. Quote, "Then she got into the real subject, and I was surprised at first with her question. She asked me what internet provider I had, and she strongly advised me to go for Starlink. She said Starlink was going to become very big and take over mostly every communication system in the near future, and that Elon Musk invested more funds into developing lower orbit relay technologies. She kept on talking about him, saying that he was going to become very important soon for the greater good of humanity in the near and far future. She said this, him and I are from the same place." End quote. The female Nordic's comment about the future of Starlink and Elon Musk and their importance for the good of humanity is very revealing. If her comments about Starlink taking over communication systems in the near future are accurate, that gives us powerful insight into who would have been behind the loss of 40 Starlink satellites. High on the list of suspects would be the owners of the present global communication system, the deep state. Furthermore, the Nordics' comment that Musk is from Alpha Centauri conjures up a similar scenario to Nikola Tesla, who believed, along with several of his closest associates, that he was originally from Venus. Arthur Matthews and Margaret Storm both wrote books that describe Tesla's origins as a Venusian. A leaked Majestic document describes how human-looking extraterrestrials have in the past dropped off some of their babies to be raised as normal humans, but they would have advanced abilities that would facilitate technological advancements. It is therefore not unprecedented that a gifted inventor such as Musk turns out to have off-world origins. In her conversation with Elena, the Nordic talked about living in California and working on advanced technologies before buying a house in Ireland. Quote, her, "We were living near LA before buying a house here, but I still travel a lot. Me, what were you doing there as a job? I remember you said you were installing new technologies in people's homes. For which company was it?" Her, "We had our own private company. We are high-grade engineers. It was a new technology, very advanced, having to do with connectivity. A kind of Wi-Fi if you want, but based on quantum technology relayed to lower orbit connectivity. That's all I can say." End quote. This is a very significant piece of information, since it suggests that the real purpose of Starlink is to set up a Wi-Fi global communication system based on quantum technology, rather than through the transmission of electromagnetic frequencies, EMF, from lower Earth orbit. A quantum communication system is based on ideas such as quantum teleportation and quantum entanglement that use photons, as explained by a science reporter, Martin Giles. Quote, "Quantum teleportation works by creating pairs of entangled photons and then sending one of each pair to the sender of data and the other to a recipient. When Alice receives her entangled photon, she lets it interact with a memory qubit that holds the data she wants to transmit to Bob. This interaction changes the state of her photon, and because it is entangled with Bob's, the interaction instantaneously changes the state of his photon too." End quote. While many fear that Musk's Starlink is going to create a 5G system that will beam harmful frequencies 60 and 95 gigahertz to stifle and control humanity globally, the Nordic is suggesting that the real goal is to develop a quantum communication system that would not be EMF based. Put simply, quantum communications will use entangled photons, thereby enabling instantaneous communications over great distances, whereas conventional communications use electrons to generate EMF waves that travel at the speed of light. This severely impacts the usefulness of EMF-based communications for deep space travel and makes it practically useless for interstellar travellers. Another big advantage of quantum communication is that Faraday cages, which block EMF waves by creating a metal cage around sites, would not block these kinds of transmissions. A quantum-based system could thus be used by submarines, whose hulls act as Faraday cages, and in deep space by spacecraft for instantaneous communications. Therefore, it is no surprise that extraterrestrials use quantum communication over interstellar distances without any delay or harmful EMF waves, and that they are encouraging inventors such as Musk to introduce this to the general population. This is what makes claims that Musk is using Starlink to create a quantum-based Wi-Fi system so startling. If the Nordics' claims about Musk are accurate, then Starlink could be used to free rather than further suppress humanity using a new generation of Earth-orbiting satellites that would create the next generation of communications. Apparently, this kind of quantum communications technology was being earlier developed in California by the Nordic extraterrestrials before the deep state intervened, as the following exchange clearly alludes to. Quote, "Her, we left because we lost everything. Me, I am sorry to hear this. So it's why you left California? How did this happen? Her, our house burnt down. They burnt a whole town. Many of us died." End quote. The Nordics' remarks make it clear that the California town she is referring to is Paradise, which was destroyed on November 8, 2018. The Paradise fire wiped out the entire town and forced its 27,000 residents to flee, with over 80 deaths. Mainstream media sources such as NBC News cited drought conditions, high winds and faulty electrical transmission equipment for the destructive wildfire that engulfed the town. Alternative media sources, however, identified telltale signs of satellite-based directed energy weapons being used to destroy the town. Was Paradise targeted by directed energy weapons? I immediately became suspicious over the real cause of the Paradise fire when I heard from one of its residents, Ralph Ring. He sent out an email to supporters saying that his home in Paradise had been destroyed, but that he and his wife had escaped unharmed. I first met Ralph in Hawaii in 2007 when he did a presentation at our Earth Transformation Conference about his work on a civilian flying saucer project called the OTC-X1 that had been developed by the inventor Otis Carr, who was a protege of Nikola Tesla. Ralph stayed in touch over the following years and let supporters know that he was working on advanced technology projects that would revolutionize the planet. This is what he was working on in Paradise when the fire took out the town. At the same time, David Wilcock did an interview about the Paradise Fire where he stated that his sources had revealed to him back in 2007 that many of the residents of Paradise were extraterrestrials from Alpha Centauri working on advanced technology projects in underground facilities. This meant that Paradise was the real-life equivalent of the town Eureka in the popular TV series Eureka. The Nordics' admission to Elena that she was one of those impacted by the fire and that many of her companions had died meant that the deep state had targeted hidden underground facilities used by the extraterrestrials. The surface brush fire was created as a cover to take out these advanced technology facilities using space-based directed energy weapons. Now we know why the deep state had destroyed Paradise and the cutting-edge tech projects under development. These projects threaten the current global communication systems using harmful EMF transmissions that researchers such as Dr. Joseph Merkler have well documented as being extremely harmful to long-term human health. Now 4 years later, Elon Musk's Starlink was targeted by the deep state using surface-based directed energy weapons according to Thor Han's communications. It's unlikely that the loss of 40 microsatellites will stop the rollout of Starlink and its future global Wi-Fi system, given that over 1,700 satellites are currently in orbit. If what the female Nordic told Elena Danaan is accurate, then Starlink is destined to unleash a future quantum-based Wi-Fi communication system that eliminates harmful EMFs. This explains why Musk and his companies are now being targeted by the deep state using their remaining resources in the mainstream media, compromised assets in the alternative media, and exotic weapons developed by the aerospace industry. Thankfully, there is a growing Earth alliance of spacefaring nations working with US Space Command and positive extraterrestrial groups that support Musk's efforts and will act to protect his Starlink system and the revolutionary quantum communication system these will establish for the benefit of all humanity. This has been Dr. Michael Salla with exopolitics.org. If you like this podcast, then I recommend that you register for my upcoming webinar on February 26 to learn more about what's coming in 2022 and beyond. Please remember to like and share this Exopolitics Today podcast.